She's a friend of our club president, Beverly Allison. Her name is Jeanette Vosburg. She's going to be talking on capturing rainwater, which is somewhat of an enigma right now, but we are expecting an El Nino. We do have moisture in the air. But she's a member of the Sierra Club, and she lives locally, so she understands what we're going through right now. So let's give her a hand.
Hi, everyone. So I think the message that I want to leave you with tonight is that this should be fun. And I started working with the Bionah watershed and did some tours all the way to Griffith Park. And then we walked the full length of the Bionah Creek and all the tributaries to understand what was going on. And while doing that, I met a woman named Jessica Hall. And Jessica is a landscape architect, but she was really interested in capturing water. And she began to explain to me, and I hadn't really ever thought of it, about the storm drains and the fact that we have two separate systems. One, a sewage system that, takes everything from the house. And then, the storm drains, which take the water off the street. And it made me realize how much water, when I started looking at a rainstorm and seeing how much water pours down the street. And then I realized that it all ends up in the ocean along with all the detritus that is on the street, the dog poop, etc. I started thinking that, the fact that our driveway rolled down and all the water came down out of our yard was really wasting water. So after I had, after retirement, I started thinking about, well, what could we do about that? And this is a result of working on a couple houses, one that we live in and one that our son lives in. And that the water from our house is going to Hyperion, and the water, when it rains, is going in the storm drain. From the storm drain, it's going into some tributary, and then into Bionah Creek, and then into the ocean. So I did have a rain barrel at the business, and I had connected the air conditioning unit. And the condensate, about every 3 days, filled up the rain barrel. I was told by Culver City when I said I'd like to capture water from the air conditioning unit. Again, in that particular case, the engineer said, kind of disgustedly, well, I don't know why you'd want to do that. You'd have to do copper. And my answer was, I really don't mind using copper. I want the water, and there we had bougainvillea that just grew all the time, and we never watered it. And the average house is, 1,000 to 3,000 feet. And so if you had a roof that was 1,000 feet, and we had an average year of 15 inches of rain, you would get 9,345 gallons of water, off your roof. Now, we don't do that because we have a lot of trees around the house, and so they need to get the irrigation from the roof, so I'm doing a lot of other things. That curb cut just brings in water. When it rained in July, I was listening to Maxine Waters talk, and all of a sudden it started pouring. And I was so excited. I mean, we were going to stay through her talk because she's really interesting. But I rushed home immediately with my friend, and she took video of me just celebrating, because just in a few minutes, this filled up, and it was probably about 150 gallons of water. So what we were able to do is just turn on the pump, take a hose, and take the water wherever we wanted it.
And this was just from the curb?
Yeah, this is strictly water from the curb that came. It's free water. And
how did you do the curb cut, and is that legal?
Is it legal? I'm sure about Culver City, though.
Yeah, I
don't know about that. I mean, I think that if there's enough demand for it, and there are obviously ways to do it, you could do it.
You'd have to get the council to approve it probably.
I don't know. I just know we live in LA.
Yeah.
So Next slide. So this is what it looked like when we were finished, but I think I'll show you later some alternatives that are cheaper and would work just as well. I wanted to be able to pump it to someplace else, so that's why I needed to capture it.
So the rocks are sitting on top of
The rocks are in the bathtub because I can't,
okay.
the thing is, what I'm concerned about is the liability of somebody falling in a hole, so, you know, I need to do that. But we don't let, you do not want standing water for more than 24 hours, or you're gonna get mosquitoes. So this is not something that you do and then go on a month's vacation and let it set. You can't do that. This is something that you're gonna, you know, somebody's gotta be responsible. So, and like I say, it's an experiment. And this is just finished. We had a little steel left over from something else, so I just made a design there. You know, it was just, the steel was cut that way and we used it. And then, next slide. This is just a little area off to one side that just brought a little color in, and they're drought tolerant plants. And you can see there the hose, you know, that's drip irrigation, and it's really amazing. You plant plants and you use drip, in no time at all, the garden just explodes. I'm going to show you an example. And this is just small lava rock. And I just wanted to do something that was crazy, so, you know, and it was pretty inexpensive in comparison to other stones. This is the backyard at this house that we rent. And what I wanted to do was to create, first of all, infiltration so that the water would go into the earth. But in addition to that, I wanted to have a patio. So the next slide is the patio. And this is set on sand and then just has sand between it, and it works and it looks nice. It's easy to keep up. This slide, I don't want you to look at all of it, but note the neighbor's roof. So the neighbor's roof is about 200 square feet, so you know that in a 1-inch rainstorm, we get about 120 gallons of rainwater. And so over the year, we get like 1,000 gallons or 1,500 gallons. So I thought, why waste it? So we dug out and we put gravel in, and then we just put rock over it so it looked better. And so every time that it rains, our neighbor furnishes us with, if it's an inch storm, 1,000 gallons, or
What a good idea.
you know, whatever gallons.
Such a good idea, Jeanette. That was a wonderful idea.
And in our house on East, we have a neighbor that has a much larger garage roof, and he was throwing the water into the alley. You know, it just went straight in the alley. So I told a guy, well, just run a trench along our whole alley. And then I just had him dig right up to where the neighbor's drain came out. And I intercepted it. And we planted those orange honeysuckle. And so our yard is 105 feet wide. So the water only goes, I mean, you can see where the water line ends because it ends at about 40 feet. And so the honeysuckle is just growing to the sky with the 40 feet that gets watered. And then the rest of it, we water occasionally with drip, and that is half the height, you know. So it shows, for me, I never believe, I guess I'm like the man from Missouri, and if I can't prove it, then I don't believe it.
So these bushes, they have the same soil.
Oh yeah, everything.
It's
The
just
only
water.
difference
Yeah.
is that our neighbor waters
Right.
about 40 feet of it. So, these are things that are really, were eye-openers for me. 30% of all electricity that we use is used to bring our water to us in LA. So, and then LA imports 89% of all the water from at least 200 miles away, and that's why we use so much power. And this is where I get really excited. LA, greater LA, is 60% private homes, which means that no matter how smart or stupid our public officials are, we really are in the driver's seat. We can capture the water in our yards and not let it go down our driveway that's canted to the street. We can intercept it somewhere and keep it. And if we all did that, it would restore our aquifers. And our aquifers, are groundwater underneath. And what people don't realize is that in my research, I found that while we have a huge amount of water in the world, on the planet, only 1% is drinkable. The rest of it is salt water. So, we're really on a slippery slope. And we need to really think about that. And then this is on East, and this is our house with a regular lawn. And so,
How long ago was that?
a couple years ago, I guess. It's probably been 2 years since we started. And I didn't put the rainbow in, it just volunteered. So anyway, next slide. So I was interested in just trying a variety of things. And one of the things I did was just look on the internet in Craigslist. And I found somebody in Riverside County that had all these rocks, and they were like maybe 4 to 5 inches. And he just wanted to get rid of them. And so we rented a truck, and we had a truck, and we went, and we had to pick them out of the dirt. So it was kind of exhausting, and I think we did 2 or 3 trips. But anyway, all the rock was free, except the big ones, and then the smaller rock we bought. And so we just had fun with it. It just happened that that's what we got. Next slide. Oh, and one thing is that this is another, that's another curb cut. And that curb cut, I did bad things, okay? What I did, I was curious what would happen. So we dug about 18 inches wide and 36 inches deep, a trench. And when we got under to the sidewalk, I got one of those things that turns, and it opened up a thing that we could put a 3-inch pipe through under the sidewalk into our yard. And so what we did is, by then I had done the 500-gallon cistern and spent a lot of money, and my husband was not half a camper. So that doesn't stop me, but it kind of slows you down. So anyway, what we did is we built a cistern that time, with cement concrete walls. And that one, and the reason I wanted to do it is that I knew I could bring the water in, but I wanted to see how much we got in a rainstorm. So now it will hold at the top of, at the bottom of the pipe, because it's only going to go in as high as the pipe from the street. But it'll fill in no time at all, and it's about 170 gallons. And so I have again a pump that pumps out the water, and so we can direct it wherever we want it. It's just, the pumps run a couple $100 to $400, and when we're not paying much for water, it's a penny a gallon. So when it gets to be real, it's going to be huge. And while my husband is laughing at me now, I believe that in the end, I'll be laughing.
I predict it's going to be the same as gas is today.
Right,
In the near
exactly.
future.
Yeah, I agree. In our printing business, probably 25 years ago, I was printing and mailing for Exxon Oil. And I would occasionally have dinner with the person that represented the Western United States for communication. And at dinner one night, she said that, you know, probably 25, 30 years ago, she said, in the 21st century, we will not be fighting over oil. We'll be fighting over water. So I don't think this, you know, I mean, I make jokes about it, but I think it's critical. So anyway, that then takes it, and this is something where just in a few weeks after we put in the drip, the plants started growing. Now
they're huge.
really
and
robust.
The orange ones are the most
Oh,
beautiful.
you know our yard.
Yeah, I go every day.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. I do the handouts of these
Yeah.
things, and they always disappear.
I just put a drip system in, but I'm not really sure on how long to have it on or how many days. How many days do you have yours on?
You know, we've already admitted that Gordon does it, and I just come up with the ideas, so, you know, I don't really know those kind of things. It's not very often. It's probably he waters once a week or
He does it
every
once a
2
week
weeks.
because I know
Does
when
he?
he puts
Oh,
the hose on.
okay, see, she knows more than I do. So, and by the, this is really crazy flight of fancy. I was over at West LA Building Materials, and I found these, what turned out to be rubber ingots for making tires. And I actually know the architect that knew the guy that made the ingots, and he died, and the family got in a feud, and they went out of business. And apparently I was the benefactor of him dying and going out, the business going out. So I just bought everything that West LA Building Materials had, and we took out about 12 inches of driveway. And before we did it, I'll show you later, but I just had someone, I rented a water saw, and it's a walk behind, and we cut the driveway that we removed into somewhat squares. I told them, don't worry about being straight or anything, just try to kind of keep straight. And so we made squares out of it. And instead of breaking it up, which annoys me, I figured it would be nicer to have something else, and so I show you the results of that. I'm kind of a nut about repurposing. I hate to throw anything away. And so I look at it and think, what other form? So anyway, just you can go through this quickly. This is just the base, and then making a place for, you know, so that we can keep the pavers straight. And they weighed about 80 pounds a piece. So the guys that worked for me didn't want to come back, and I can't figure out why. You know, anyway, this is the finished product.
Beautiful.
And it's just kind of fun. And then we used it for our garden too. And this is the driveway. We just made a place to park our truck.
In the alley.
Yeah, in the alley, right, exactly.
And the other was off the street.
Yeah, right. Well, what we took out
Yeah.
was off the
So
street,
they know
but
it.
we used it at the very back of the property.
So it's completely permeable?
Yeah, well, because it's built, again, there's base under there and there's sand between it. And you know, the only thing I can say, again, I never trust anything unless I see it. And at the office where we did the parking lot that was bigger, a lot bigger than this, we constantly had standing water. I mean, people hated it, tenants didn't like it, we didn't like it. And after I did the pavers, we never had any standing water at all. And
Plus, that's watering all the trees.
right, and the trees, I didn't know this, but Paul Herzog, who did the Culver City High, was one of the people. He's Earth Friendly Gardens, and he lived at our place for about 3 years. And so he actually was very instrumental in doing the yard, because he's a whiner, and he would whine first to me and then to my husband about getting rid of the grass, because he's Surfrider, Earth Friendly Gardens. So we would whine, and then Gordon would say, okay, well, you can have this patch. And then we'd do it, and then we'd let it go a while, and then we'd whine again.
Is the rock upstairs the former driveway?
That's right. Yeah.
And you don't have a problem with weeds getting between your pavers?
No, well, you know, occasionally, but I mean, in comparison, my husband was out in the yard all the time weeding that stupid grass. I mean, it took him days, you know, and I was always saying, quit already, enough,
You
you
never
know.
weed mine, you just let them grow the rest of the grass.
Well, you know, I mean, we're not fanatics.
I have a short sloping driveway that's kind of very steep. And I'm just wondering, you know, it's already got cracks in it, so oh, you need to drive.
Yeah, well,
What I could do, I don't know that that could work because you still have to dig down in the slope with sand.
you know, to be honest with you, I'm not, if it's not, probably, if it's like a slope like that, I doubt seriously that you'd have a problem. Do you know?
The house that I bought 2 years ago has a very steep driveway, and it's all concrete, and then there are little lines of brick decoration. And my plan is to take those lines of brick out. They go across the driveway, and then as the water comes down, it has a chance to drop into something. I'm going to dig down and put gravel in there and make it a little bit lower on one side and have it run over into the garden area.
And you know, one of the things that I wasn't prepared to talk about, but one of the things that we've done in the front yard at both houses is we've dug a 12-inch trench, maybe 8 or 10 inches wide, all the way down the sidewalk. And then we put gravel in there, and then we're mulching anyway, and we're putting rock or mulch. So it's a really good way to capture all that water, and you could actually do it even, you know, at the end of your driveway. If your driveway is in good shape, just cut out a portion of it and let the water go in. One of the things that taught me, how am I doing on time? Am I all right? One of the things that taught me is we have industrial property and it butts up against, kind of close to the Santa Clara River in Canyon Country. And we're up against a cement plant. And so my brothers and I have owned this property for about 35 or 40 years. And my brother Larry is really one of the most likable people that you'd ever meet on the planet. And so people are always giving him things. And so every time the cement truck came back, you know, one of the trucks would come back with a half a load of cement, they'd say, Larry, do you want it? And my brother would say, yes. So we have 2.5 acres, and some of it is 12-inch thick concrete, because Larry just did these crazy things. And so being a water person, I kept saying, well, where is the water going to go? You know, I mean, if we concrete this whole place, it's a disaster. So why can't we, you know, cut out some places where this water can infiltrate? And so we did that, and Larry is the benefactor of amazing fruit trees, because he planted, after we did it, and he planted fruit trees and grapes and stuff, so they made wine with the grapes, and you know, they've done really well with it. But occasionally a tenant will say, you know, the water is coming down, and so last week, or over a period of a couple months, we cut some trenches and dug down about, you know, 24 inches and filled it with gravel. And then we had a cement company come in, and Larry is a welder, so he made some grates, you know, so that the water could go wherever it wanted to go. And so we're just keeping everything as much as we can on site. Anyway, move on. This is brick, and during the earthquake, our fireplace was damaged, so we took the brick out, and I just, again, we laid a base on sand, and then we did the brick. This is just connections for the drip, and, you know, everybody probably would do it differently, and you can put timers on them. And then, of course, there's mulch. Now, this, we planted it about probably 4 months ago, these little plants here. Next slide.
It's exploded.
Oh, wow.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's lantana, you know, so once lantana gets going, I think it grows on air, I'm not sure.
And it's yellow and purple.
We were a little confused about the color of the lantana, so we
Yeah,
just
it's
put
really
it in.
pretty.
Thank you. Next. And this is, Beverly and I went to a water conference, and I can't remember where it was.
Montrose, I think.
Montrose or something. So anyway, we went to this water conference, and this guy that was speaking was from North Carolina. He was a professor, and he'd done a lot of studying. And what he said is that kind of the ideal way to capture water is about 36 by 36 by 36. So you see that mound of dirt back there, that's a lot of dirt. And we just made a little swale by adding that dirt. But what I've done is we have a kind of a shed, and so you don't see it here. I eliminated the slide, but there actually is a gutter that feeds into that. And then because plants, according to Paul Herzog, you know, who lived in our guest house, according to him, the trees actually will share the water. So what this is these trees, one of them is a lemon tree, another one is a peach, and then the one in the foreground is an apple. And so they all benefit from that. And trees, you know, you can water forever with tap water, and they will grow. But when rainwater waters them, it's like a whole different game plan. So getting this water is really wonderful. And next. This is just some cement we had, and we made composting out of it. Our neighbor hates us because I think rats like it. You know, so I don't know that. I mean, I think probably, you know, a normal composting thing would probably keep your neighbors happier, but I like the fact that it's kind of rural and whatever, so anyway, that's it. And this is another area in the backyard, and this is a trench that's 18 inches deep, filled with gravel, and then the rock just shows me where the gravel is. I mean, it's strictly just nonsense. Next. And so then Culver City over on Jefferson has lots of compost. You can go over there with a truck and haul as much as you want, or people go over there with bags. And so we go over and get truckloads of mulch over there. And then again, the water comes down and irrigates the trees. And now we have the cistern when it pumps. Over around here, the pipe comes from our yard. Our house is there, it comes across, and it comes down. And when the pump comes on, it runs water down, you know, down that thing. Now, it's not going all the way down, and it's not a super idea, but I figure that when the water starts coming down the street, I'll fill the 500-gallon cistern from the other cistern and then run it back there.
Oh, yeah.
And give the trees a real soaking of rainwater. So I'm very excited about it. I haven't had a chance yet. But, and this is a mango that we planted, you know, less than a year ago. And you can see the fruit. It's like, it's huge, and they're delicious. So Beverly said, "Are you prepared to say what kind of a tree?" But I've already told you I don't, you know, I only do the ideas.
Mountain mango.
So, and this is the last slide. As you can see, I've enjoyed what I have done. And I think my son is like rabid about it. He's always talking to the neighbors on his street. And we put out these flyers, and we have handouts, and people come and they just keep disappearing. So I'm hoping that
I mailed them up to Oregon.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I have a
Really?
friend who does water up in Oregon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I've sent it up there to give to Governor Brown because he's working on sewer to drinkable water for
Oh, really?
California.
Yeah, well, great.
Yeah.
You know, a website that is absolutely amazing. When I had talked with the water board people, I kept going to Department of Water and Power and Water Resources Board meetings in LA. And John Bishop is the head of the Water Resources Board. So I said to him, I'd really like to talk to you. So he said he would call, and then he ignored me. So I went the next time, and I said, you know, you promised to call me and you didn't. He said, well, I promise this time I will call you. So he called me, and we talked for an hour or so, and that's when we set up going, you know, me going to Sacramento, when Beverly and I did it. And there's a lot of wasted opportunities, you know, in the way that we handle water. And we have had these installations in not long enough to see what happens, except for in July when it rained. Every other time it rained, we were on a trip, so I never got to see the water actually coming in. But I just would say to you that don't do anything that I've done just as I've done it. I always say don't adopt my ideas. Just adapt them any way that would make you happy, because that's the key to wanting to do it over and over again, and to talking about it with friends and getting this, you know, I believe in summary, in the 100th monkey. The theory was, and does anyone know the 100th monkey theory? Well, the 100th monkey is that monkeys never wash their food, but then a monkey started washing its food in the ocean. And so a few more monkeys started washing their food in the ocean. When a certain number of monkeys washed their food in the ocean, then every monkey everywhere started washing their food in the ocean. So I guess I'm a Jungian, and I believe, like Carl Jung did, that that it doesn't take everybody. It just takes, at some point, it just takes off, and it happens. You know, it's not going to happen with just me, but you know, we start multiplying the number of yards that are doing the thing, and people get to looking at that as a new paradigm, and it becomes our new reality. And we could save the 30% in energy if we did it. We could actually, what got me started, to be honest with you, is a vision for Viona Creek. When we were walking the creek, and I was working with the watershed coordinator, Jessica Hall, what we envisioned is that we could have balloon dams starting in Culver City and going to some point, and then have boating. And then, you know, when it stormed, get rid of the, let the air out and let the water pass. Well, the problem is that we really need the storm drains for these big rainstorms. But if we were not doing that, and we were capturing the water on site, then there wouldn't be as much water coming down, and I could have my reality. You know, and that's how I got started. That's why, capturing water on site.
Plus our watershed underneath is almost empty, and we have to replenish that. People don't understand that it's almost
Do you want to take the mic? Because I think this is a really important thing. I was absolutely, I've been doing this for about 15 years. So one day I was at a when we sold our property 3 years ago, I wanted to go across country and just see what, like the Colorado River, what was the state of it, because we have 125 million acre feet of water on paper guaranteed from the Colorado River. So I looked on the web and it said, it's not so good. So I wanted to see for myself, and so we drove across in a different way, but I came back with my cousin. I wanted to see what happened. Well, I remember our kids were little. This was, our kids are now, Todd's 48, so it was a long time ago. And we stayed along the Colorado River, and it was a frightening, awesome thing. I mean, you weren't going to tangle with that at all. Well, when my cousin and I drove through, I said to her, you know, I must really be confused because we must have gone a different way. I mean, this is not the Colorado River, but it was the Colorado River. And, you know, then I started looking at the aquifers around, particularly in the United States, and then in the world. And our aquifers are really in terrible shape. And so we don't have a lot of time to get our act together, and particularly with population explosion and the kinds of governments that we have that take no consideration for the fact that we are building housing and we're building buildings and we don't really have a water supply that we can rely on. So I think it's a, you know, I mean, it's, to me, it's a very serious but fun kind of business.
And look at Playa Vista. All that is just dirt. Now all those...
Well, and that brings me to another point. You know, I worked for about 10 years to fight Playa Vista because that was built on an unadjudicated aquifer. Now, unadjudicated means that no one really owns it or takes control of it, but the fact is that there was a lot of water under it. And so we fought them because SoCal Gas was injecting gas. 7 to 8 billion cubic feet of natural gas is injected from Oklahoma and other places like Texas, and stored under there. And they were supposed to keep it at about 900 pounds per inch. Remember, your tires are 30 pounds. And they jacked it up to 2,300 pounds per inch. And there's a plane, you know, I just want to show you at this angle, that comes from the ocean into Culver City. So what's happening is that gas, as it's being forced more and more toward Culver City. And we know that, and you know, we know it's in the marina and everything. So we said, this is going to be an explosion hazard. So we insisted that, this is the group that I work with, Grassroots Coalition, we insisted that the city had to insist on methane mitigation. They needed to write a new ordinance. And so they did. Well, that ordinance means that first they put down a methane barrier, which is crazy, 30-year guarantee on a units that'll probably be 100 years. And then what they had to do was put pipes in so that they could evacuate the gas under Playa Vista. So what that means is that you can't get gas through water. So what they're doing, and I have a big board that we had taken to an LA City Council meeting. They are just on the first phase. I don't know about the second phase, but on the first phase, they admitted that they were getting rid of 1 million gallons a day. Think about that. You know, with all the problems that we have with water, they're taking water, which is, you know, that aquifer, and they're sending 1 million gallons a day to Hyperion. And this, you know, with the Sierra Club, some Sierra Club members, and then the Grassroots Coalition, I mean, we just go crazy over it. And, you know, and then on top of it, and this is my last point, on top of that, one of our people that we work with discovered that they had put 2 5-foot drains in to drain the wetlands when it rains. I mean, you know, we've been mystified for the last 10 years why, even in major rainstorms, doesn't the wetlands get wet? You know, it's like this is really weird. And then a photographer that's out there tramping around finds a 5-foot storm drain that goes directly to Bayona Creek. Think about that. And I leave you with that thought. I mean, I don't know what to do about it.
Wonderful.
I'm going to take a moment here, ask Jeanette any questions that you have. We're selling raffle tickets for the table raffle. Raffles on the raffle
No, I'm a new member, so I get one.